Hi, Mr. Simone here from Hamden Middle School. For today's video, we're going to kind of go over how to find a five-number summary, but more importantly, how to kind of represent that five-number summary using a box and whisker plot on the graphing calculator. What we can do is start by entering in our data. So we can go and press Stat, where it says Edit. We're going to press Enter. And list 1, list 2, list 3 is kind of listed for you, but we want to enter in our data into list 1. If you wanted to, if there's information in there to clear out list 1, you can press up and then press clear. But ours is obviously clear, so I'm just going to enter in the data here. We've got 17, 29, 32, 9, 30, 14, 8, 39, 11, and then we have 32 and 23. Alright, I usually after I input data I want to make sure that I actually did it correctly, so I tend to go to back to the top and just go through the list one more time to make sure all the data is inputted correctly, and in fact I have inputted the data correctly. There should be 11 terms, that's what that little 11 means, and 11th term is 23, and that's fantastic. From here, there's a couple options. You could sort the information that was from an earlier video, or we can just calculate the five-number summary, which we'll do first. So I'll hit Stat again. We'll go over to Calc, making sure that the cursor is on the first choice, or you can just press 1. But if it's on the first choice, you can just press Enter, and press Enter again. And what it will do is it'll find some pieces of information. This is kind of like the same thing we talked about from an earlier video, but we have the average, which is up here. This is your mean. The total amount, which is all the terms added together. N represents the 11th term. We can use a little arrow here. It kind of points down so we can see what the five-number summary is. And here's our five-number summary. So it gives us a min, our Q1, our median, which is also known as our Q2, Q3, and your maximum. All right. If you want to go from here and kind of fill out your information, you can. But we also want to represent this as a box and whisker plot, and there's a few things we have to do. All right. So I'm gonna kind of clear this so that we're at a main screen. To set up your box and whisker plot, you have to do a couple of things. First thing you want to do is make sure that your stat plot is on. Now, if you don't know what stat plot is, you'll notice that it is up here. And to get there, we're gonna have to press the second function, because the second function allows us to use anything that's yellow or orange or whatever. So we're going to press second. You're going to hit y equals, making sure that that little arrow is in there. That means the second function's on. So we're going to hit the y equals. You'll notice that we have a bunch of stat plots, and there's a few of them. All of them should be off. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually turn on the first one. So the cursor is on 1. You can either press 1 or press Enter. I'm going to press Enter. We want to make sure that plot 1 is on, so you notice that the cursor is blinking on. We're just going to press Enter to make sure that it is in fact blinking on the on. We're going to go down to the type, and we have a few different types. You've got a dot plot, you've got other graphs, this histogram, and you keep going over with the cursor. You can't really go up or down because that's going to change where you're headed, but you can go side to side, and you're just going to go all the way to where the histogram is. Once the cursor is blinking on the histogram, you're going to press Enter, and you're going to notice that it says X list is 1, and then it says its frequency. The frequency basically is just how fast you want the information projected, and as long as the frequency is on 1, that's totally fine. If you were to go to graph, for example, you're going to notice that, hey, it's off the screen. So we have to kind of fix our window a little bit. All right, so again, just to reiterate, we went second, y equals to get the stat plot. We made sure it was on. Make sure that the histogram is on, and L1, which is the list that we typed the values in, is also associated. Once we do that, we're going to go to Window. No need to hit second. We're just going to click the Window button, and now we have to set our parameters. Now, sometimes it's really nice. You might have something on a homework assignment or a quiz or test that has kind of your parameters set. Sometimes you don't. You can kind of create your own if need be, depending on what your teacher chooses. But here we notice that our x-axis is from 0 to 40, so we're going to use that as our min and max values. So I'm going to type in 0 for the min and 40 for the max. Please don't get this confused with your 5-number summary. Some kids actually type in the min and max into that. Don't do that. Try to, if you can, go a little bit, smaller value and a little bit larger to exceed where the box and whisker plot may be set up. Our scale, we'll notice that this one does go up by 1s, but it is separated by 10s. So if we want, we can actually set the scale to 10 to kind of separate our information. For your Y min, we're just going to click 0, and our Y max, it really doesn't matter. You can keep it as 10. Sometimes I do 5 or 1 or 2. It doesn't really matter because it's just going to create your whisker plot based on the x-axis because we're only looking at one set of values. For the scale for that, you can keep it as 1, and we'll move on. So all that information is typed in. Again, your y-axis doesn't really matter. You can keep it from 0 to 1 or 0 to 5 or whatever the case may be. But we do have our min and max typed in for the x-axis. Once we're there, we can go to graph, and the graph will highlight our 5-number summary. And again, because we're going up by 10s, you'll notice we got 10 here, 20, 30, and 40 at the end, and you can kind of gauge where those values should be set up. If you wanted to, you can change the window slightly. So you can go back, maybe you want your scale to be just 1, you can do that as well. And we can graph it again. And now each individual tick mark here represents one specific value. And it can be kind of difficult to distinguish between the graphing calculator and the picture that you draw for your box and whisker plot on a piece of paper, but at least you can identify what it should be done or what it should look like when you're writing. Again, this first value, this is your min. The box starts with your first median, which is the Q1, which is the median between the min and your median value. This is your Q2, which is also known as your median for the total set. Q3 is the back end of the box, and then your maximum is this point out here. And obviously they call it a box and whisker because the box represents the different forms of your median values, and the whiskers, like a cat's whiskers, head off to your minimum and your maximum value. Hope the video helps. Again, most of the time in class we'll be doing it out by hand, but you can also check it with a graphing calculator. Keep watching.